okay, my first one on my list, and I've been wanting. I think we talked about this back when we were looking at the trailers and stuff. But I was really excited to see the confirmation of that guy that came down in like the paraglider onto the thing. He is the stamp guy, quote unquote. And so my hopes and dreams is that we're getting a collectathon, and I'm excited if it's stamps.
You had me. You had me at the beginning. You lost me at the end.
Oh no.
Um,
Well, it's the stamp guy. How can we not be collecting stamps? I'm so excited. Like that so my hope was for this game that we would have a collectathon.
yeah.
But now that this guy is confirmed as the stamp guy, I think that's going to be the collectathon.
You might not be wrong. You might not be wrong at all. I'll kind of combine mine into here as well. So I had just a great overall collectible that you can get throughout the game. And when I think of like just a fantastic collectible, I think of like the Mai from A Link Between
Okay.
Worlds. I think of like the Golden Skulltulas from Ocarina of Time. Those are kind of the ones. Even the Golden Bugs from Twilight Princess, I think were really fun. Those are the ones that I kind of think of. You know what? I don't know. I don't know if a stamp quite does it for me. It
Listen,
brings back.
don't put Twilight Princess HD in your mind about
I can't
stamps.
help it. I can't help
There's
it.
other games that did stamps, like Spirit Tracks, and
Oh.
I don't. It's been a long time since you played that game. I understand, but like that was a cute little thing. Nico gives you a little post book, and you go around collecting stamps in different places. And I didn't 100% that. Let's be real, but like it was something that was cute and exciting, and I'm like. I feel like with the game, like Echoes of Wisdom looks cute and exciting, that stamps would be a good, cozy thing to collect.
I think we could do better. I think we could do better than stamps. Like the first thing I think of when I see stamps is like I'm in the Arbiter's grounds. I'm grinding. I've just defeated a couple enemies. I see a treasure chest. I'm like, yes, it's the dungeon item. And all of a sudden, it's the lowercase g. And I'm just like, great. This does me no good at all. Particularly if you're playing Twilight Princess HD like now, because
Yeah.
Miiverse
Now
doesn't
it's
exist.
useless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we could do better than stamps. Here's the thing though. If the stamps are, it depends on how they're implemented, right? So like if you get,
That's what I was gonna say.
yeah, like if there's 100 stamps in the game and you get a reward for collecting 15 and then 30 and then 45, like that's fine. Stamps would be, like not top of the list, but I guess like when you break it down, like spiders, bugs, and little octopus creature things aren't like, when you say it like that, they don't sound like great collectibles either. It really is how they're implemented.
I think that like several ways that you could do it is like it's kind of clear from the trailers that that the game wants you to talk to a bunch of NPCs and do a bunch of like side quests and stuff. And so the stamps to me make kind of take me back to the bomber's like notebook, and then when you like complete a quest with an NPC, I think only in the 3D version they kind of give you like a stamp.
Yeah.
And or like a little like completed. And so if you are walking around talking to different characters and you do something for them, maybe it's not a side quest, but maybe it's something like on a more personal level and they are like, here's a stamp from where I come from or something. Or if it's regional or something of that nature, I think it would be really fun. And I just think with how the game looks and how it feels to me without playing it yet, I just think that it would be something that's fun and cute and like maybe sweet to do.
I mean, okay, like stamps would be my first choice, but as long as they're implemented properly, I feel like I'm fine with that. Like that's okay. I we can have stamps. Like that's fine. And to echo what you said, like on my list, I just want like a good collectible, like something that you can collect and it's fun and it's not that it's easy, but like it's accessible and like easy to understand, I guess, and easy to redeem, and it's worth doing. Like I really liked the Mai Mais.
Yeah, the Mai Mais were really fun, especially because you could like hear them. I found that really helpful. Same with the Golden School Tulas. But I don't think we would. But if we're going into like Korok territory,
No.
I don't know if I'm about that in this game.
And the other thing about the Mai Mais that they did really well is they kind of broke down like by region. Like there's 4 left here, there's 5 left here. Like you need to do that again.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. So I kind of went for a big one right off the hop.
Okay.
This is what I hope. I hope that dungeons are structured in a way that like there's your first dungeon that you go to, and then there's your second, and then there's your third, and then there's your fourth. I kind of don't think that this is going to be the case, if I'm being totally honest. It more
Mhm.
so seems to me like Breath of the Wild, where you can pick either one of the regions and just do whichever one you want first. I don't want that. I want just like a classic, I guess like linear is the word, but like I feel like it's structure and progression. Like that's kind of what I'm looking for. Like I want, because I feel like the trade off when you're able to do any of those dungeons in any order is like there's there's not any that seem like harder than any of the others. They just all kind of have like the same difficulty curve. So by the time you get to the third and the fourth dungeon, it's just kind of like, okay, this is pretty easy. You kind of know
Mhm.
what to expect. I thought that it worked. I think that the game will kind of echo how A Link Between Worlds did it. That would be my guess, and I think that that's like, I don't know, it's fine enough, but I do like, I kind of want like a that that progression back to like, okay, we're gonna do our intro dungeon, and then we'll do the next couple. Maybe it's a sequence, and maybe after that you can pick like one of three dungeons and do like the three in each order that you want. That's fine. I just want like
Mhm.
some kind of structure in order to how that goes, rather than like once again you're in the world and like you can just go and do whatever you want. And I think that's going to be how the game, based on everything that we've seen, I think that's how the game is gonna kind of roll out. But I hope it doesn't. It's not gonna be a terrible thing if it does do that. But I would prefer that it didn't.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. I think that we are still going to be, I don't want to say held back is the right word, but like I think we're going to be held in a linear place because of echoes. Because I think like certain echoes can help us get to certain places, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, and like you might, the way that Rod was describing the demo, he's like the first three rooms were like full of echoes that would help you continue to the next room. So I kind of feel like echoes are going to be similar to dungeon items, where the echo you might get in a dungeon will help you get to the next dungeon,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from, and I think that's how they're gonna kind of put us in a more linear fashion. But I also like agree with you. I don't know if that's 100% what they're gonna do. I think that they like the freedom now of open world and are being able to choose what we want to do, and they might just continue that with a game like Echoes of Wisdom.
Yeah. And like there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I
Mm-hmm.
just like, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of miss like that structured progression a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not the worst thing to have structure in your game. Like I know we want to be able to do what we want when we want to do it, but like I don't know. I really don't think it's that bad if you have like something that says no, you can't go here yet. You have to do this first. I feel like that's fine. Um
Yeah, and even it's funny because even when they give us freedom, but they kind of imply where to go next, I still follow where did they imply to go
yeah.
next
Yeah.
because I guess I want to be structured in my video games a little bit.
Well, me too a little bit. And like I'm sure that like as we play this game more, we're gonna figure out some hacks and tricks and whatever that we could do with our echoes to make the game like whatever we want. And they might not even be that difficult. They might be like supported in game. Like you know what I mean? Like and what I mean by that is like Metroid Dread showed you how to sequence break something that was like not a glitch or anything. It was just like a trick that you could do to sequence break. Like they encouraged it,
Hmm.
but they encouraged it. They showed you how to do it like a month after the game was released. So I think that
I see.
maybe we're doing something like that with Echoes of Wisdom. I don't know. I miss kind of like the natural the build up to like that last grand dungeon. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm. Yeah,
um and I think we've been missing that a little bit.
yeah, I agree. Okay, well, since you brought up dungeons, I have a couple for dungeons.
Okay.
So, I would like the first thing I have is I would like some dungeons, it doesn't have to be all of them, without the central gimmick. So we saw in the water type dungeon that there are like four squares that have lines that go off to different rooms, and that tells me that we have to go flip a switch, and
Hmm.
that activates the central gimmick. And that's very Breath of the Wild, very Tears of the Kingdom. I know we've had it in Zelda before, but like it's such a focus in the Switch Zeldas. So I would like to like kind of branch away from that, and I'm hoping that some of the dungeons are not like that.
I am 100% with you. 100% with you. I think and I hope that it does not have the Breath of the Wild gimmick where you need to activate the 4 goobers in order to like get to the boss. This is my hope that because I remember seeing that dungeon like the 4 things on the wall.
Hmm.
It almost
It
reminded me of
don't
Great
it
Bay.
looked so cool, but it
Yeah,
looked like Great Bay, but it did make me worry that all the dungeons were going to be like that.
which like I mean Great Bay did have a central mechanic like where you
Hmm.
had to activate a bunch of stuff, but like you still had to progress through the dungeon in the natural order and the natural way to do it. Um, I hope that this dungeon is kind of like that.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like some dungeons, I feel like they're fine. Like even the water temple from Ocarina of Time. Like that's really just like you're in the one main room and there's all these offset rooms. But like
Hmm.
there's definitely other dungeons like the Shadow Temple from Ocarina of Time that like you just progress further and further in. And like that's
Hmm.
I think you need a healthy mix of both because we've definitely had our fill of
Yeah.
the 4 gimmicks.
I think having both, like if that water temple is very reminiscent to the style of dungeons in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that's fine because it did look amazing.
Hmm.
But I just don't want them all to be like that again.
Yeah. Um, okay. My next one is very broad, but I have to say this is what I want. I want a Zelda game with a killer soundtrack.
Yes.
I
Okay.
I need to have this game have just like an awesome soundtrack from top to bottom because I'm trying to think about when the last time a Zelda game came out that I was like, wow, this music is unbelievable. Tears of the Kingdom had some really great tracks, some really great
Hmm.
tracks, but the style of game that Tears and by extension Breath of the Wild is, like, you don't hear that music that often, right? Like, the bulk of it is very ambient, very quiet, very wistful, like, and it works for that style of game.
Hmm.
And that's great, but this is a different style of Zelda game, right? So, like, I'm trying to think to myself, like, okay, when is the last time, like, Link's Awakening, the remake, that soundtrack was fine. I don't know,
Hmm.
I thought it was fine. I
Yeah.
think like a Link Between Worlds soundtrack, it's fine. It has some
Okay.
bangers, but like for the most part, I think it's just fine. I don't care for Triforce Heroes soundtrack to be honest. So I'm like, okay, taking aside Breath of the Wild and in Tears of the Kingdom, which is a different style of soundtrack. When's the last time that we had a Zelda game come out that has quote unquote traditional video game music that really rocked the house? And I was like, it might be Skyward Sword.
Skyward Sword.
It might
Yep.
be, which is 15 years old, which
Yes.
is wild. Um, but yeah, so like I really want a really good soundtrack. I think that the main theme that we've heard in the trailer is okay. I'm hoping that we're gonna have a little bit more like bombast or I don't know something going forward.
Hmm.
But I want a killer soundtrack, man. Like I want to hear some music in here and just be like, oh, that's gonna be like a classic Zelda track. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna be talking about this for a long time. And I'm not saying that like doesn't exist in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild because I think they do. It's just that those games are different, right? Like the way that you listen to music in those games is different than, I guess, let's call it the traditional Zelda experience. Which this game looks like it's more of a traditional Zelda game.
Yeah. I once again, I get where you're coming from. I personally feel like Tears of the Kingdom has some tracks that where I'm like these are going to be classic Zelda tracks. And
They do,
but
yeah, they do.
I understand what you mean that a lot of it is more of an ambiance than like a reoccurring Zelda track. And I think they do a good job of like recycling. So this is exactly what I put is I want more new tracks and
Hmm.
then really exciting recycled tracks. So cuz that's a common theme in Zelda games where you will recycle an old track, Zelda's Lullaby, Hyrule Field, whatever. So I want those, but I just want a new twist to them. I just want it to be something like I'll hear the old Zelda track and be like super I'm like, "Oh my god, there it is." But I also want the new stuff. And from what I've heard from the trailers, I think the music sounds amazing. Like I am so excited for it. Something about me is like when it comes to games and shows and movies, I am more paying attention to like what's happening on the screen and I don't notice the music at first. But I feel like with watching the trailers, I noticed the music right away. So it makes me excited that this is going to have some
Hmm.
amazing new tracks. So that's my hope. I said more new tracks and exciting recycled tracks.
You know what I really love, actually, to be specific, is a kind of like a fast-paced, up-tempo, maybe even like a battle theme version of Zelda's Lullaby.
Ooh,
Like
that would
we've
be
had kind of the
cool.
slow
Like
like
a warrior
I
Zelda's
walked out
Lullaby.
to Zelda's Lullaby from Skyward Sword at my wedding. Like, so we've had
Uh-huh.
some amazing slow kind of renditions of that track. But like, yeah, I mean, we got Zelda in the title role here. Let's go with like the rock version of it. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
intense version of
Hmm.
Zelda's Lullaby for like maybe the final battle or something like that would be awesome. I think like, and I can't even picture like what that is in my head, but
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing I think that I'm in agreement with. Like I want like the new versions of like classic tracks and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to despair. I mean, listen, I love Monk Maskashia. That's one of my favorite tracks in the Zelda series. Like it might be
Yeah.
my favorite, but it's just like in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you hear music more so when you're at a set piece rather than like the continuing the game as a whole. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you're
Yeah.
going to hear the Terrytown theme. Yes, you're going to hear the Hiteno theme. But when you leave, you don't hear that. Whereas in a classic Zelda game, like some of our most beloved tracks are the Dark World, which you hear when you're in the Dark
Yeah.
World, or the Hyrule Field theme, right? Like that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I figured that's what you meant.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in agreement. We're both wanting some exciting soundtrack from this game. I'm gonna take a step back to dungeons because I wrote two down.
Okay.
So, and maybe I feel like a lot of people might disagree with me, but I don't really like a huge number of dungeons. I think the Oracle games are really fun, but they have too many dungeons.
Yeah.
I want just like 5 or 6 dungeons. That's kind of my hope. And even that is a little bit much for me. Like 4 or 5 would probably be my like sweet point for dungeons. So yeah, that I know that kind of sounds like people are like, no, more dungeons and like more might be better. But for me, sometimes it gets a little chory if there's too many dungeons. And then
Yeah.
at the same time, they might not be as good because you're picking quantity over quality.
I think that's perfectly acceptable. I think my threshold might be a little bit higher. I would say 8 is your max, including the
That's
final,
too
like the
many for
final
me.
dungeon.
I mean, like with the Oracle games, they have 8 each, and I was just like, and I know we played them back to back, and that made it worse. That like exacerbated the issue, but it was just a lot for me.
Well, and so the other thing too is like not all dungeons are created equal, right? Because like
Yeah,
in Link's Awakening, there's also 8 dungeons, but that doesn't feel like too much because those dungeons are quick, they're fast, they're I mean the final 2 dungeons aside, like they're mostly pretty straightforward and easy. Whereas like there were some honkers in the Oracle games, right? Like Sword and
yeah,
Shield Maze or Jabu Jabu's Belly, or like those are some intricate, big dungeons, like Ancient
yeah,
Crypt, like. Pfft. So if you're gonna have like a dungeon like that, like a big whopper of a dungeon, you know what game did this perfectly is Minish Cap. Minish Cap, like the Palace of Winds is like the most gargantuan dungeon you've ever seen. It's like 2 dungeons really in one. And so they were like, you know what? That's our 4th dungeon of the game. We don't let's just go home. Let's
yeah.
get Dark Hyrule Castle. That's all we need. Okay?
Oh my gosh, I've never been so hurt in my life. That's it. Let's go home.
Yeah. So hey everyone, if you enjoyed this clip and want to see more of the Zelda Cast, make sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and subscribe. There are over 200 episodes in the vault that will provide you with hundreds of hours of Zelda content for you to enjoy. You can listen to us when you're on a walk, fighting Ganon, trying to sleep, whatever. And if you want to see these shows as they happen, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/the ZeldaCast, where you can watch our beautiful faces talk about Zelda every single week. Don't miss out, and we'll see you next time.